As most of y'all probably realize, when you get through with a project like a book or a video, you'll realize that it's not perfect. And even as I was publishing my Vindex Coronado video, I realized it was not perfect. It was off the cuff, sort of off the cuff. I mean, I had an idea in my head, sort of went through the idea in my head a couple times because actually the uh, the whole thing developed a little bit over time because little bitty facts of the story um, would I would be reminded of even as I was telling the story. But in the end, it was an off the cuff telling of the story. And as I was publishing it, I realized that there was a couple of minute things that I was leaving out. And I did allow myself a couple of edits, but you know, it just wasn't important enough to do a couple more edits. So instead, I said, I'll make an addendum video later for these points. So one point I guess is probably the biggest leave out was that when Eldridge showed up with the samplers and said, "Here, how many of these um Vindexes do you want? Here, look at my Vindex A." Chrono said, was getting upset and, you know, uh, he had signed over the right to use the name. And so Coronado asked him, "Well, how am I supposed to do that?" And he goes, well, I'll just say, "Well, you could put your own labeling on the thing." So for the rest of Coronado's and Eldridge's business relationship, Coronado had his own badges put on there. The styling Coronado had for his labeling was actually well liked and thought to be very stylish. So, in regard to the deal that Eldridge made with Coronado to give him the blackest of black on the Riverso Rexes, but as every sewing machine manufacturer knows, there'll be a new model out next year or next month. But so the deal would not be a forever deal, and Eldridge realized that Coronado might be upset when the new versions came out. So what he did was, without telling Coronado ahead of time, Eldridge gave Coronado exclusive again on the blackest of black, but not on black altogether, just the blackest of black, which was above and beyond the actual deal. And so when the RBRs came out, Eldridge went to Coronado and said, "Look, man, our deal was for you to get the exclusive on the Black Godzilla finishes on the River Sows, and I abided by that deal. The new machines are coming out. They're not covered by that deal, but I'm going to let you have another exclusive on the Blackest of Black as a way of making amends." And so you will notice that the RBRs, Coronados, are black. When it comes to the Black Godzilla finishes, Coronados are blacker than anybody else's. And so the other point I wanted to get on the record, I guess, is a conspiracy theory. Well, actually, there's a couple other points. I remember reading about how a lot of business people and were suspicious of National, how they were amalgamating all these sewing machine manufacturers. But in the end, he did not break the anti-monopoly law because Singer was still around. And in the end, even though he did everything he could to keep his company alive, it ended up dying from foreign labor cost competition. Eldridge was considered one of the titans of industry, definitely a serious businessman. Sort of like Steve Jobs or Lee Iacocca or somebody like that. So, one other point was the conspiracy theory, which I don't know where this came from. It was a long time ago where I first picked this up, but it was a side discussion. You know, it is sort of amazing that the topic of this come up a couple times in my life, but somebody suggested that the Vindex A's were never made by National. That what Eldridge did was when he bought all the forms for the prior products of Vindex, and then he made the exclusive deal to badge Vindex's sewing machines. He collected the 6 sewing machines and used those as a Vindex A. That he didn't even bother to duplicate it. He just used the sewing machine that Vindex had already made as the sampler for the one he was going to badge for Coronado. So that is just a theory. But there's not that many Vindex A's out there. And why call it a Vindex A and not just call it a Vindex? That right there is the Cowboy Shooting Club. They actually practice shooting off of their horseback in a competition. Alright. So, here we go. Here's a view I'm aiming for. It's going to be so hard. So, you see those mountains over there, that's Sandia Mountain. And right where it goes down, the ridgeline falls up back behind that other ridgeline. So that's the Tijeras Pass. Canyon de Coronado. The Rio Grande River. The Rio Bravo del Norte. Approximately 7 miles on the other side of that pass. And of course, Coronado came up that river. And there's a chance, pretty good chance actually, that one of the scouts came over to this side, because at that time, over in that direction, there was a settlement of Indians, and Coronado was communicating and trading with them guys. So, this is the land of enchantment. Tierra Encantada. So that's all I have on this topic, so appreciate your attention to it.